The Dutch version of St. Nicholas arrived on Saturday in the Netherlands in an annual children's party that has become the backdrop for increasingly acrimonious confrontations between supporters and opponents of his sidekick, Black Pete. Some have put on blackface makeup to play the character in parades across the country. Opponents say such depictions promote racist stereotypes, while supporters defend the helper of the white bearded, red robed Dutch version of St. Nicholas as a traditional children's character. Here to join us and give us more insight is former U.S. congressional candidate and Time Magazine Trump's top pastor, Pastor Mark Burns, Onyx News correspondent Dr. Yue Thompson, and Onyx News contributor Dr. E. Bernard Jordan. Pastor Mark Burns, I want to go to you first. We're in 2019. To hear stories of blackface almost seem like they should absolutely be a thing of the past. Jump in here and give us some insight on what's going on here.
Well, Nietzsche, I mean, this is offensive at the highest level. I mean, this it's very sad. It saddens me that in 2019, at the eve of 2020, that we are still dealing with the racist character that is clearly connected to Jim Crow, the character of Jim Crow, who was blackface, and the minstrel dancers that is clearly depicting black people as ignorant, stupid buffoons that is embedded in the culture of this country. It saddens me that the Netherlands have taken on this character, part of their tradition, Black Pete, and still today are painting their faces as a black person, and they don't find it offensive. As a black conservative, for me, I stated everywhere, racism doesn't belong anywhere, whether you're a Democrat or you're Republican. If you are an American or a human being with any decency, you will find this offensive, and racism as offensive as Black Pete is.
Dr. E. Bernard Jordan, jump in here. You have some history of what is happening in the Netherlands as far as this whole situation is concerned.
Well, this has been a tradition that's been going on since 1850, which is before slavery was abolished. And we begin to see an activist begins to make a quote here because for some reason we're in 2019, about to go into 2020 elections here in America. But for some reason, I am questioning whether we have gotten emboldened in this particular political process. This is what Jerry, an anti-racism campaigner, said. We were threatened by these people very aggressively. They even did the Hitler sign, and in some places, white power signs. It was like a weekend of Dutch racism in full display. So here we are beginning to see Dutch racism in full display. How did we come into a global setting where racism is being played out, acted out in blackface globally today in 2019?
Dr. Yue Thompson, supporters of the traditional version of the character have already put up hundreds of superimposed images and graphics of the leader of the anti-Pete situation and the depiction. Last week, a group of protesters vandalized cars. They threw fireworks at a venue and a meeting of the Pete activists. Some people have also been arrested. How do we bring this back to or connect this to what is happening here in the United States?
Well, the globalization of racism have always been, I think, and this is a demeaning, dehumanizing depiction. Any blackface caricature is to be disavowed because of its linkage to Jim Crow, minstrel plays being enacted, depicting plantation workers, plantation dwellers. This is just disheartening, but it speaks to a larger issue, I think, because we see such even being played out in American politics, you know, with the emboldening of racist rhetoric, white power, alt-right, white nationalism. These types of terms, even throwing of KKK signage and things of that nature, holding parades, we are witnessing a reconvening of sort of a racist society, and it's disheartening, and I don't know how we're going to ever live it down when we see such global things taking place as this occurring in the Dutch world. It just saddens me.
Pastor Mark Burns, give me your final thoughts on this.
Well, I think, Nietzsche, I agree with Dr. Uwe and Dr. Jordan about, racism being globally. However, I do want to suggest that racism has always been globally, not simply because of this current administration. I want to bring that point to be true. Again, the neo-Nazis and the KKK were just as active, if not more active, when President Obama was president for 8 years. But most of America just ignored them like we have done in the latter years. But now that President Trump is a president, the same group of people who are now raising their voices, and they didn't just start to raise their voices. Again, racism has always been in America. It's been embedded into our culture, and it's still impacting people today. But I don't think it's directly connected to this administration. I think racism, just like sin, has always been in America, and racism has always been globally. But I am extremely saddened with my brothers who are on this broadcast that this Black Pete character and the Netherlands should be embarrassed. It's a stain on their culture, it's a stain on their nation. Like Dr. Uwe said, this is clearly connected to Jim Crow, the character of Jim Crow, and it's extremely offensive to all black people around the world.
Interesting conversations happening here. Dr. Uwe Thompson, Dr. E. Bernard Jordan, Pastor Mark Burns, stay with us. We're going to continue this conversation after the break. Welcome back, everybody. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about a blackface situation that has happened in the Netherlands. Dr. Uwe Thompson, I want to start this segment off with you. We've had many conversations about race relations domestically. So what would be your response to what Pastor Burns said earlier about the current state of race and within this current administration?
Yes, Nietzsche, I think in terms of this current administration, I have to raise the question and raise the awareness that there seems to be a lot of inflammatory rhetoric. There seems to be a lot of racist rhetoric. I wonder if that's not a silent dog whistle of sort that is emboldening this race problem in America that we see. I'm for any and every administration moving this country forward, but I must ask the question: are we not witnessing that type of rhetoric in this current administration?
Dr. E. Bernard
you know,
Jordan, I want to go to you. We're talking about, you mentioned something offline about the Prime Minister. Go ahead and speak to that.
Yes, thank you, Nietzsche. I'm glad that you got me before Pastor Mark Burns, because here we have a controversial statement from 2014 from a Dutch Prime Minister. And what happens when our political leaders are seemingly giving this silent dog whistle like in code, and is it emboldening what has already been lying dormant in America? Listen to this quote: "Black Pete is black, and I cannot change that because his name is Black Pete. I can only say that my friends in the Dutch Antilles are very happy because they don't have to paint their faces. And when I am playing Black Pete, I am for days trying to get the stuff off my face." Now, this is the Dutch Prime Minister that is saying this. So what happens when our political leaders are endorsing it, playing the role, or doing this whole minstrel show? And what does it do in the climate of the countries that we're in? And what do it do for African Americans here in America if we allow that type of climate in our political process?
Pastor Mark Burns, jump in here.
Well, again, I again agree. This is despicable. The character of Black Pete and the whole tradition of St. Nicholas in the Netherlands, this tradition that they're using black paint, black face. And again, I'm a vocal supporter of standing up against this character of Black Pete. and the Netherlands not thinking that this is offensive, even though people are protesting in the Netherlands and around the world. Again, racism, as we've already stated, is global. I think in reference to this administration, however, I stated earlier, racism existed prior to President Donald Trump being elected. Racism was already embedded into this country. One person asked me, was Donald Trump racist? And I said, well, is this network racist? This particular MSNBC asked me, are you racist? Because there's a systematic system that is in place that black people, and I call it classism, have to work extra hard to gain in this nation. That is very true. That is not necessarily directly connected, I believe, to Donald Trump, because it already existed. The fact of the matter is, under President Barack Obama's administration, $23 billion of money was given to small businesses in this country, but only $250 million of it went to black small businesses. That's a clear disappropriate of funds given to white and business and non-black businesses to money that was given to African American businesses. So there's a system in place, yes, that we have to deal with. There's a system we have to address of systematic racism that is embedded into the American culture. I don't think it's directly connected to Donald Trump. White people who dislike black people were existing in this country way before President Donald Trump.
Pastor U.A. Thompson, Dr. E. Bernard Jordan, I want to give you final thoughts here, 30 seconds or less. 30 seconds or less. Give me your final thoughts on this.
Well, what I would like to say, when these protesters was out there, they were throwing bananas at them and eggs. And I just think that this is horrible, and that we've got to begin to look at what are we going to do as a society.
Dr. U.A. Thompson?
Yes, I think we have to still continue to raise these issues and talk about them, open conversation, because I'm still not sold completely. I agree with Pastor Burns. Racism is embedded in American culture. However, we have dealt with much of it being displayed publicly through civil rights and other policies, and it troubles me when there are people who comes along and uses a dog whistle or coded language to reinvigorate, revive, resuscitate this racist inclination deep within the heart of American, or deep within the heart of humanity. And I think we have to continue to have these conversations, and these people who are sending this silent signal need to be called out for doing so, because this is not right, and it's a shame. It's
Dr. U.A.
dehumanizing.
Thompson, thank you so much. Dr. E. Bernard Jordan, thank you. Pastor Mark Burns, thank you so much for awesome reporting. This was a very interesting conversation today. Thank you as always.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.